Up next, we have Laura Davila, who is a web developer for the Progressive Campaign Committee, PCCC, and also lives in Texas. And she's going to tell us her story of being engaged the last week, giving testimony, and being there during the vote. So hi, Laura. And
hey, Laura.
Over to you, Jodi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Waking
Thank you
up.
so much for, yeah, I know we got you early. Thank you so much for all the efforts you've put in over the past however much time you've been working on this. Give us a sense of what your role has been and what it continues to be in this effort and what you see as being the next steps.
Well, thank you for having me. And I want to say that I wouldn't really be getting involved with the cause if I had no idea it was happening. But I have some friends who were really passionate about the issue, and I'm passionate about the issue too, but I don't always pay attention to the legislature. But now I'm going to be paying way closer attention. So a friend of mine got some of us all together to go testify on Thursday, and that was a really insane experience because I don't think anyone was expecting the turnout that we got. If you haven't already heard, it was almost 700 people who registered to speak.
Right.
Definitely not everyone got to talk because the chairman cut off the testimonies when he thought they were getting repetitive. But I got to testify, and I was really happy to because I personally have a CX debate background in high school that I haven't used in years. So I was able to kind of take out those speaking skills, and I think I got the committee's attention at least and helped the cause. But yeah, I'm just one of so many other women and men who have been getting involved just in droves out of nowhere the past week or so.
Right. I just want to pick up on one thing you just said though before, which is that the committee chairman called the testimony he was hearing repetitive, quote unquote repetitive. And so let's remind ourselves that what was repetitive to him were the actual stories of real women and men who have experienced health crises that required them to rely on either safe abortion care or other forms of care that are going to be basically outlawed by this law if it passes.
Exactly, which really upset everybody because he went on to say something like, "Oh, well, can we find out who has the more compelling stories because this is all getting very repetitive, blah blah blah." And of course, there's no way to organize and find out what everybody's story is, because everybody's story is unique, and you never know whose story is going to be more compelling than the others. And that totally, disregards the point, though, also that this is a democratic process, and we found the place where we are actually allowed to speak as the public, and he was shutting that down.
Right. And the reality is that the repetition comes from the fact that at least a third of all women, 1 in 3 women, at least 1 in 3 women in the United States has an abortion during her lifetime, and that most of those women who do have abortions are already mothers. So hearing the real stories of real women who have gone through similar circumstances is to him repetitive, whereas he otherwise says he's speaking on behalf of the people of Texas. It seems a little bit odd to me, but clearly you were there firsthand, so it's also a bit demeaning from afar anyway.
Oh, it's incredibly, and that was exactly my thought when he was saying, "Oh, it's repetitive." A lot of us were like, of course it's repetitive because it's something that is a social issue that is affecting a lot of people.
Right.
And that he expected it to be otherwise.
Right. So by virtue of the fact that many, many, many women go through this experience, to him it's repetitive. Very interesting. What are you looking forward to for the next week and the special session?
Well, I know that earlier yesterday there was a lot of talk about everybody call Governor Perry, tell him we don't want this special session, and that was kind of spreading like wildfire, which is cool. People were posting about it on Twitter, on Facebook, and that's really been a key way to organize everybody. But another thing that I had heard earlier yesterday is that, well, we're not going to get involved until we find out when the actual hearings are going to be or when they're actually going to talk about this bill. But I also found out early this morning that people are already scheduling to rally on the 1st, on Monday. Just, I guess, to remind the legislature that we haven't forgotten yet, and we're not going to forget about the issue. Since some people were confused and thought we were going to go on Monday, but now it's actually going to be an organized effort, and people are going to meet up and I guess march around the Capitol.
Right, right. It's ironic we're coming up on July 4th, Independence Day, and what Governor Perry and many other governors and legislatures throughout the country are seeking to do is to strip women of their fundamental rights. This close to Independence Day, even makes it a little bit more ironic.
It really is. It really is. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of my friends who helped us organize a lot, me and my smaller group of friends getting organized with the bigger organizations, she was talking about how I won't be surprised if they try to pull something where they expect everyone to be not paying attention on the 4th of July and they still convene and try to pass something or try to do something.
Right. Because it seems to be that a common strategy here is to do things in the dark of night, because if you can't pass them in the light of day, you need to pass them in the dark of night or behind closed doors or in small rooms where people can't fit for protesting. Seems antithetical to democratic process.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was really upsetting because, as I said, I don't typically get involved with the legislature myself until this point, and I'm not going to stop. But when I was in the gallery, like especially on Sunday when they were doing the House debate on the bill, and I was just baffled at how much of a joke the democratic process was happening in front of me, because they spent hours just having Democratic senators or representatives, excuse me, trying to propose amendments to the bill that would have been ways to make the bill bipartisan. At least, I know we're not going to win the 20 weeks argument in the right to life eyes people, but we could at least compromise on the fact that these clinics are going to shut down and limit access to so many people. And even coming from the representatives who are from the areas that are going to most strongly be affected by this bill, there is just no like attempts at compromise from the right. And it ended up being like hours of Democratic representatives talking at each other about possible amendments and why the bill is bad, with no refutation from the right, and just continuing like motions to table all these ideas that would have helped.
So, Laura, you said that you were someone who previously wasn't that engaged on a day-to-day basis in these issues. Do you see others like yourself becoming increasingly engaged who might have fit that same description, weren't professionally working in this area, weren't necessarily engaged day-to-day? What do you see around you among other friends and colleagues and people that you know?
Well, I'm really excited about that part of it. If anything, the one good thing that's really come out of this horrible bill is the fact that it's leading people who are otherwise disengaged, like myself, to get involved and, find out what's happening and not just let these things happen like without a fight.
Right.
And I know a lot of people have like come to me personally or talked to me personally about how like, oh, your Facebook updates, they've really kept me informed on what's happening, and if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. And I can say the same thing about my friends, and I know other people are just spreading the word like wildfire, and it's been really great because people are finding out what's happening. And maybe it seems like they don't care because they don't act, but they might just not be acting because they don't know.
So how important do you think social media has been to this whole effort?
Like I said earlier, it's been key. I would not have found out about it if it weren't for a friend who I know in person, but she made a really informative Tumblr post a couple weeks ago that kind of explained all the things that one could do to get engaged and take action on the issue, like who to call, who to email, when the hearing was going to be, when people were getting together to testify. And then beyond that, just getting kept informed and up to date with like Planned Parenthood and NARAL and all those organizations, Texas Democrats, like Tani was saying. So it's been really important. And it's not just me following those outlets, but me following those outlets and then spreading it to my friends.
Right.
Who then spread it to their friends.
Right. Tell me a little bit about the concerns you might have also about diminishing access to contraception and other forms of health care in the state.
Well, I live in Austin, so it's not going to be something that significantly impacts me. I also have health care, so it's not going to be something that significantly impacts me directly. However, I was born in Austin, but I was raised in Laredo, which is a border town, and that's one of the areas where it would take them at least 2.5 hours and lots of gas money to just get up to San Antonio. And that's not even the worst case scenario. Mary Gonzalez was talking about her district, which is in El Paso, and would cause her constituents to drive like 600 miles one way to get to a clinic. And she also drew attention during the debate to the fact that like it's not just going to be for that abortion, but it's also going to be for that forced sonogram. So
Right.
it's effectively 4 600-mile trips for people in El Paso.
Right.
For me, like I said, I'm privileged, and because I live here in Austin, I'm able to go to the Capitol and take advantage of that fact. And because I'm employed by PCCC, I have a little bit of leeway and I'm able to do that. Some people aren't able to do it because of their job, and some people won't be able to travel to clinics because of their job, because of having to work so many hours, because having to try and save up all that money.
Right. So this all sounds like a guaranteed equation for keeping people who are already poor, low income, even poorer, and making them struggle even harder to exercise a basic right to decide whether, when, and how many children to have. It's really a tragedy. Laura, thank you so much for participating with us today and for letting me try out my first time as a host.